Hi everyone, this is Cheryl Brumbaugh-Duncan, and this video is to guide you through a class activity on how to use an AP div tag in the kind of class sample Lake Powell site. I have the files up here on D2L, so please download them, and you can work along with this demonstration to create or recreate the Lake Powell site that you're going to see here as we insert the AP div tag. But the first thing that I need to do with this site is to go ahead and insert the AP div tag. And as you know, AP stands for absolute positioning or positioned div tag, and I'm going to position it over here in the right hand side. And as you know, a regular div tag can only be kind of stacked or positioned left and right of each other or nest inside another div tag, but you can't overlap regular div tags, but you can overlap an AP div tag on regular div tags or on themselves. So to insert an AP div tag, I'll come up here and choose my insert menu, layout objects, AP div tag, and you'll see it pops up on the screen down here. And if I click on the little tab in the upper left hand corner, I can drag it up to where I want it, which is about in this area. Notice it's going to overlap the header ID div tag, the navigation ID div tag, and the rocks ID div tag. I'll resize it by grabbing one of these handles, clicking and dragging to make it the size that I want. And then I'm going to go ahead and insert an image into this div tag. So I've clicked to set my cursor inside the AP div tag. Then I'll come up here to my insert menu and I want to insert an image. And that will open up the select image source. And in this Lake Powell, let me go to my site root. Lake Powell Class 9 is the name of this local root directory, but I'll go into my images and you'll see that here's the seal. And I'll go ahead and open that up. The seal is inserted. Well, actually, now I need to do my accessibility attributes, and I'll just type in seal for Lake Powell. Say OK to that. My image will appear right over here in this div tag. I can resize the div tag to better fit the size of the image, or I could come down here and set in my property inspector and set the width and the height for the size of the div tag to precise dimensions. But in this case, it doesn't really matter. I can see my seal image and it's overlapping. Now, if I save this, and I'll go ahead and save it and then preview it in a browser. Here it comes. You'll see that the seal is absolutely positioned in a set XY coordinate that's based on the upper left hand corner of the browser screen. And it's not where we positioned it here off to the far right. So if I go back to Dreamweaver and do just a couple of things with the code to make the seal be relative to its parent element. And remember, an AP div is always relative to its parent element. And in this case, when it was inserted, you can see the code for it is right down here in my code view. And it's relative to the body element of HTML right now. But I want it to be relative to the wrapper that I have around this web page. So to do that, I want to highlight the code for this AP div tag, and then I'm going to cut it out of the code view with a Command X. Let me come up here and do a cut. It's not taking the keyboard equivalent. There we go. And then I'll come up here, and here is my wrapper code. I'll position my cursor at the end there, press return, and then I'm going to go ahead and paste in the code for my AP div. And now, because I placed it underneath the wrapper, it is relative to the wrapper ID div tag. So that's the first thing you have to do, is set the code underneath the div tag that you want it to be relative to. The next thing that you want to do is to come into your CSS styles panel, and I'll go ahead and refresh that, and you'll see that when Dreamweaver made the AP div, it automatically created an internal style sheet, right there it is, with the following properties for the AP div 1. And you can see it's got its height, its left coordinate or positioning there for the x coordinate, and the positioning here is set to absolute, and that's what makes an AP div an absolute positioned element, is due to this position property set to absolute. So that's where the AP div is. It's set to absolute at this location. Now, if I go into my wrapper, and I've set the code underneath the wrapper tag over here, and the div tag for the wrapper. Now I'll come into my wrapper rule, and I'm going to go into the positioning category, and I want to set this positioning to relative. And through inheritance and the cascade of CSS, this property will automatically apply to any other elements that are children of it, and our AP div is that. So I'll go ahead and say OK, and then I'll take my AP div, position it. It got a little off there to where I want it. Again, it's overlapping the 3 different ID tags. Then I'm going to do a file save all to save both my style sheet and the source code, or the HTML page. Now when I preview it in a browser, and we'll give it a minute here to pop up, you'll see that the seal is positioned based on the parent wrapper, or the parent element of the wrapper div tag. And when I resize, the seal stays with the design in the correct location. Now, what I'd like you to do is to download the files I've provided here in this activity and work through this activity to insert a seal on the index.html page, which has its own style sheet, and go through the various steps that I just showed and insert that seal so that it stays in a relative position based on the parent element of the wrapper tag within the design. If you have any questions, feel free to email me.